The words unless, if not, as long as not. So these we call them connectors. And they are used in conditional sentences type 1. It means real condition. So it is not imaginary like in type 2 or impossible like in type 3. No, this is real condition. It means we can get the result if we have the condition. So let's have these examples. If you don't study, you will fail. So in here, we say, if you don't study, this is the condition, you will fail. This is the result of the condition. This is the consequence. So if you don't study, you will fail. But if you study, so you will not fail. If you study, you will succeed. Succeed is the opposite of fail. Let's have another example with the word unless. Unless you study, you will fail. Unless you study, you will fail. It means if you don't study, you will fail. It's the same meaning. Let's have the other example. As long as you don't study, you will fail. So, as you see in all of these sentences, in number 1, number 2, number 3, so the verb is in simple present. In the second part, which is will fail, the verb is in the simple future. So, if you don't study, you will fail. The verb in the first part, which is if you don't study, it is in negative. But in the sentence, unless you study, you will fail. So in here, the verb is positive, is in positive case. So unless you study, but in if, we say if you don't study, as well as in as long as you don't study. But in or with unless, we say unless you study, because unless itself is negative, and we never use unless with not. We never use unless with not. So what is the meaning in here? We say if you don't study you will fail. إذا ما درستش مليح، إذا ما رجعتش مليح، رايح ما تنجحش، رايح تفشل. Unless you study, you will fail. So in here, unless you study, ما لم تراجع، ما لم تدرس جيدا، ما لم تحضر، ما لم تجتهد، ستخسر، ستفشل. As long as you don't study, you will fail. In here we say طالما لم تراجع، طالما لم تحضر، طالما لم تجتهد، ستخسر، ستفشل. This is the meaning. So all of them, they have the same meaning. And now let's exchange the verb fail with succeed. Succeed is the opposite of fail. Fail, يخسر. Succeed, ينجح. So we say, if you don't study, you will fail. But if you don't study, you will not succeed. Let's have it with unless. Unless you study, you will fail. But unless you study, you will not succeed. Let's have it with as long as. We say, as long as you don't study, you will fail. But as long as you don't study, you will not succeed. If you don't study, you will fail. And here we have two parts. The structure of this sentence. We have two parts. If you don't study, this is the first part. The second part is, you will fail. So the first part, the structure of the first part, we have if, followed by the subject, either I, you, they, he, she, it, we, a name of a person, any subject. So if plus a subject plus do or does. This is according to the subject. Of course, this is the simple present. So we have, if we have the subjects he or she or it, so in here we say does. If we have I or you or they or we, so of course we have do. So if you don't study, this is the first part. We have if plus the subject plus do or does plus not. The second part, which is you will fail, so we have subject plus the simple future. The verb in the first part is in simple present. The verb in the second part is in the simple future. As well as in this example, as long as you don't study, you will fail. So the first part in here is as long as you don't study. As you see, the structure of this part is as long as plus a subject plus do or does plus not. The second part, you will fail. So in here we have the verb in the simple future. The first part, the verb is in the simple present. The second part, you will fail, so the verb is in simple future. Let's have this example with unless. Unless you study, you will fail. So the first part is unless you study. The second part is you will fail. Unless, followed by subject, followed by the simple present of a verb. There is no do, no does, because we have not, the negative, not. Why? Because unless itself is the negative. When we say unless you study, it means if you don't study. It means as long as you don't study. So unless is the negative, and we do not use not with unless at all. The second part, of course, you will fail. So this is the simple future. And now let's have some exercises extracted from the baccalaureate exams subjects.